Paraguay, a land with the greatest political turmoils in South American history, has mimicked American politics and movements for the last 60 years. Just 28 years ago, the country had ended the longest Latin American dictatorship of all time and changed into a democracy centered on human rights overnight. After many years, it is a fact that Paraguayan politics have been a direct aftermath of American influence due to anti-communism, American human rights movements, and most importantly, Jimmy Carter's presidency. The first instance was given through anti-communism. American anti-communism began as a catastrophic event. The year was 1949. The last years the USSR had been working on their first nuclear weapon. And finally, in August 29th of 1949, they detonated the bomb in Kazakhstan, announcing that the United States was no longer the only nuclear power in the world. The panic was biblical. This led the US into an anti-communist campaign that was meant to, at all costs, fight the USSR and their ideals. Though by fighting communism, the US supported multiple governments that joined their cause, regardless of their qualities. This was the case with the presidency of Alfredo Stroessner, which started an orderly but violent rule upon Paraguay and had the support of the United States.
Más grande delito de la tiranía y de toda dictadura, no solamente del estronismo, sino de todas las tiranías militares, ha sido sumir a sus pueblos en la ignorancia. Nosotros tuvimos la mala suerte de durar 35 años, otros como Argentina duraron unos 8 o 10 años de tiranías militares. Por eso tenemos que entender de que hay que ser intolerante con las estructuras actuales.
Another significant instance in which Paraguay was influenced directly by the US was caused by the human rights movement in the late 1970s. This was an aftermath of the anti-communism. Organizations such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch affected the now feeble grip of Alfredo Stroessner on Paraguay. The final influence, as well as the final blow to Stroessner's rule, was brought into being by the human rights movements themselves. It was the presidency of Jimmy Carter. The man was perhaps one of the greatest civil rights advocates in American history, and ended the positive relationship with Paraguay that was once held by his predecessors. The dominoes fell, and the decisive man, Jimmy Carter, had indirectly created a mutiny against Alfredo Stroessner. Carter's influence eventually led to a revolution in Paraguay that grew through the decade and struck at full force the 2nd and 3rd of February 1989, the night known as La Noche de la Candelaria, the greatest coup d'etat in the history of the country. Just like that, the longest dictatorship in Latin American history finally came to an end, paving the way to democracy overnight, ending abruptly the rule of Alfredo Stroessner, the last